As I said earlier, I've never been accused of being quiet, so this should work well. I've always been told to start off a talk with a joke, so this is one I really enjoy and kind of relevant and recent. Apple recently killed off the idea of creating an Apple car, which honestly isn't that unheard of or unexpected, considering who wants to drive a car without windows? Huh? Nah, sorry. The rest of the presentation will be better, I promise. At least I hope. So we are talking phishing and the human side of phishing. So the non-technical aspect, the things that we can take back to our friends, family, coworkers. So in 1944, the United States had a problem. They had a really big problem. And what they were realizing is that this problem is something that they can't tackle on their own. It was an issue that they needed help controlling and getting under control. And they needed the people's help of America, right? So they tried to figure out what the best way to get this under control was. And they decided the best way to go is with an ad campaign. And so they put together an ad campaign and they pushed it out. And that ad campaign went on to be the longest running and the most successful ad campaign in American history. So better than Got Milk, better than Just Do It. And I guarantee that if I were to poll this group of people, most if not all of you at least know the slogan. Only you can prevent forest fires. The problem was, everybody knows that forest fires are an issue. It still is an issue today. But the problem was the US government and the Forest Service couldn't do it on their own. They needed our help to try to get things under control by doing small little changes in behavior, things like pouring water on your fire when it was done, not setting a fire at certain points of the year, or not setting fires in certain areas of a camping site, helped reduce that overall risk of creating wildfires. And so why am I bringing this up, right? Well, you've got 3.4 billion malicious emails sent per day, right? There's a lot of similarities between the idea of what the small changes that we can make in fires and forest fires and what we can do with phishing. That 3.4 billion emails that are sent per day leads to a data breach about every 39 seconds. So if you want to think about it, that is about 80 to 90 data breaches before I'm done talking today. That's pretty insane. So I figure, why not take that same idea and try to bring awareness to the phishing of small changes that we can make to try to make our friends, our family members, our coworkers, and other people aware. So I came up with the idea of Cyber the Bear, which first my idea was Cyber the Fish, because we are talking fishing, but a fish out of water doesn't do very well, and a data center in water does even less well. So we stuck with the bear idea, and DALL-E did a pretty decent job of coming up with an image for me as well. And what I wanted to come up with was a slogan as well, but instead of making it just about you, making it about us, because it's still, from a cybersecurity standpoint, we still have a very large part in preventing data breaches. So today, when we go through, we're going to kind of talk about what we can all do together to help prevent these data breaches. So social engineering is a big topic. And anytime this little guy comes around, you know something bad is happening. That's a little social engineering worm. Underneath that umbrella of social engineering is all types of the phishing, of phishing, smishing, vishing, all the issues that everybody is talking about. And when I usually start talking to people about phishing, this is usually what I hear. Well, I know what I'm looking for. But do we? Because things are changing, right? I think we all know what we're talking about. AI. AI has certainly changed the game in certain ways, but at the same time, what we can do to try to remediate things hasn't. With phishing. Phishing, what was the big thing that people always pointed out as a red flag that you needed to look out for? Misspellings, grammatical errors. problems that, because why? A lot of these phishing campaigns are coming from another country, and they're coming and they're being written in English and in a language that maybe they don't know quite as well. Well, I went through and I created a phishing email in Bulgarian, a language I don't speak, a language that has a lot of nuance to it. I have a friend who is Bulgarian, and I asked him to read the email, and he said it did a very good job. I did that in about 3 seconds. So now the opposite can happen, right? You can create an email that is grammatically correct, that's spelled correctly, that has all the markings of someone that knows the language writing it. So those red flags that you used to know in phishing now make it look more like a spear phishing account, right? Because now you can tailor things very, very well to the actual people that you're trying to attack. In the same vein, with whaling, if you've never written a business email before, ChatGPT or Gemini can write something that is relatively business friendly to make it seem like something that you're going for. Whaling being the emails that go after the C-suite, right? CEOs, CISOs, CFOs, because they've got a lot of access. They've got a lot of emails too that they can't really look over their emails quite as well as they would want to be able to spot these things. So we've got these problems. Phishing. How many people have ever gotten a phone call saying that it's the IRS calling, you didn't pay enough taxes last year, so you owe us Target gift cards? Right? Yes, and those sort of things, that is still happening. However, now with AI, we can spoof a phone number, and we can make it sound like anybody that you want. I can sound like your grandmother. I can sound like your father. I can sound like your children. I can make it seem like I am in trouble. I've been arrested. I need bail money. I'm in the hospital. I can't pay the bill. You need to send me money immediately, right? Those are far more difficult to stop, because what parent, what child isn't going to immediately try to help out a family member, right? These issues are coming hard and fast, right? Smishing. So created another Gen AI image, and you can send these things out. Hey, listen, I found this poor dog. We need to collect money to help the animal. Please go to the ASPCA, which you can see it's typo squatted. APSCA. Most people wouldn't necessarily see that. Who's this? Don't judge them for the green bubble, please, for those Apple users out there. But, and furthermore, I can also have AI write a HTML script to create the website for me. So now I can go ahead and capture all of your credit card information. I didn't have to know a line of code. I mean, it wasn't the greatest looking website ever, I'll be honest, but it's enough that it could fool some people into giving me their credit information. And these are all things that we need to keep our eyes out for. Business email compromise. Over the last 2 years, this has increased 1,700%. That's a huge jump in business email compromise because, again, using things like ChatGPT, you can make business emails sound far more business-like without having to actually live and work inside that world, right? And then finally, there's this. My wife found this for me yesterday. If you're interested, you can get a muffin or cinnamon roll. Their cinnamon rolls are amazing. They're right downstairs. So if you scan the code, you can go right downstairs, pick up a cinnamon roll. But these QR codes are everywhere, right? And here it is, a little bit larger if you need it. But the problem is you see them everywhere, at restaurants, in airports, and other things. But the problem is you don't know where you're going, right? And when your phone pops up, it looks like this. You just get the little URL code on the bottom. So again, you can't really see where it is that you're actually going, right? So for those of you that were hoping for a cinnamon roll and are now looking at my face, I apologize that I lied to you and socially engineered you this early on in my talk. But I sent you to my LinkedIn page instead, right? I was able to create the QR code. I was able to take the URL and make it a small URL so you had no idea where you were going. And these can be slapped everywhere. You know, a lot of times at conferences you'll see them, hey, here's the agenda, scan the code. It doesn't take much for someone to just put a sticker of their own QR code on top of that to start capturing or downloading malware onto a device. So we've got a whole bunch of different kinds of social engineering. And it's no doubt that with all these different things, that 90% of corporate breaches are the result of some sort of phishing attack. But wait, that's not all. Now we have this to deal with, right? So seeing is believing, but not anymore. We had this event happen over in Hong Kong where a finance worker was duped into sending $25 million after they had a video call with the CFO and several other people from their company. So this is a person that knows their CFO, knows what the CFO should sound like, should look like, and was still faked because of it. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about what they could have done, but they started out by getting an email, and it seemed fishy. So like, this doesn't seem right. Let's jump on a call. All of a sudden, boom, there's the CFO, right? So now we've got to add Zoom phishing, or zishing. I did a quick search online, and I don't see anyone else having used zishing yet, and God, I really hope it doesn't catch on, but I'm going to trademark it anyway right now. So you've heard it here first, right? So again, we've got all these different forms of social engineering. Why do they work? They seem so stupid sometimes, so easy to spot, but they've been able to continue faking us out even after decades of awareness and training. And it comes down to a few basic ideas. Denial, you know. People will come up with all sorts of ideas as to why it may not work for them. We're too small. We're a tiny company. No one will come after us. Or worse, we're a huge company. We're MGM. No one's going to come after our casino, right? Well, a very simple fake was able to take out MGM, the casinos. Scams are complex and believable. You know, the fact that you can now fake a video, fake a voice, fake a language, you will click on something eventually. If you think you won't, you're faking yourself out. It's going to happen. They're very, very believable. Also, there are some that are very not believable. But with scale, it only takes a couple people to click for you to get a payday. So if I can send out 14 million emails, I only need a couple people out of that to fall for it, right? So it doesn't have to be great. And we're distracted. How many people here have more than 3 devices on them at the moment? A phone, a tablet, a computer, maybe another phone. Right, we've got tons of different things that are constantly pulling our attention, right? My company, we have a global presence. So I have emails that are coming in all hours of the day. My job isn't just 9 to 5 any longer. You know, I work at home sometimes, and if you don't think having children at home is not distracting, it is very distracting. You work in an office, again, you've got people walking past your cubicle, people talking to you. Things are happening all the time, and when you're distracted, that's when mistakes can happen. So, and human psychology as well. You know, we want to help. When there's a natural disaster, people want to help. They assume that, hey, I see this thing for the Red Cross. It's got to be legit. I'm going to go ahead and give money. We want to help. We want to be part of a solution. But on the flip side of that, there's the 7 principles of persuasion, right? And if you've ever looked into that, that's what the social engineers are looking into or to using against you. Things like reciprocity. Hey, I did this for you. Now you owe me something back. Or, hey, a lot of other people are using this same sort of thing. You should click on this link as well because a lot of people are, you know, they use our evolution against us. So these are things that are reasons why it's working. We're hardwired against it, right? 74% of data breaches involve human action because of those things. That's a huge, huge amount. So what can be done about it? I've given you a lot of very bad news. Now it's time for the good news. What can we do about it? And it really boils down to one simple word: nothing. honestly, we're not going to be able to stop socially engineering one another. It's not going to be a thing. People have been scamming one another for years and years and years, and it's going to continue happening for many more years. I was able to get an image of the first successful social engineering attack. And it kind of goes, it proves my point. It goes back a little further than most people might think. We have been socially engineering, scamming, and lying to one another since humans stepped foot on the planet, right? Since we stood upright and could talk to one another. It's not going anywhere. And here's another reason why. $12.5 billion lost to email fraud alone. It's just email fraud. There's a lot of money, and it's just part of what we as people do. We try to steal and cheat and lie to one another to get things. So now to the better news, how to protect ourselves. From an employee or personal level, this is not one of those ways. You do have to check your emails. I have several people in my company, well, several. I have quite a few people in our company because I run our phishing and awareness campaigns that have never failed a simulation. And it's not necessarily because when they catch something that they do something about it. They just don't read their emails. And I know this full well. Because when I do send them something that they need, they also don't get back to me right away either. So I know that they're not checking their emails. But here's what we can do. Everybody should realize that security is your job, right? Security may be in my job title. Your job title may be finance. It may be operations. It may be development. It may be something else. But deep down, we all are there together to protect your company, your family, your personal finances, whatever it is. Security is what we all need to do. And to keep that mindset of this is what we need to always be thinking about is security. What is it that people could be doing to try to steal from me, to try to gain my information? A big thing here is learning what is correct to spot what is incorrect. Before, we were telling you all sorts of things like, oh, well, there's this phishing, and then there's the smishing and the vishing. If you know exactly how a company should be contacting you, anything that deviates from that should be a red flag, right? I had a buddy who got a job at a bank, and he was going to be a teller, and I think it was the first week, they sat all the new tellers down in their training, and they laid out counterfeit money on the table. And they let the tellers look at it, feel it, taste it, touch it. I hope they didn't taste it. Put it up to the light to try to see what exactly it looked like, so that if someone ever handed you a fake $100 bill, you could say, this doesn't feel right. This isn't. So they spent an entire week looking at all of these things, learning all the ins and outs. The next 8 weeks after that, all they did was focus on legitimate money. Because the bank knew, just like how we should be teaching our people, is there's no end to the list of things that could go wrong with an email, the kind of campaigns that could be waged against your company, or the kinds of ways that money could be altered in a way to try to fake you out. But if you know exactly what a bill should look like, or you know exactly how a company should be contacting you, that when you get even the slightest derivation, that's when those alarm bells go off. So if I know that that a company A will never text message me, but I receive a text message from them, I don't care how convincing it is, that's wrong. If I know that everything needs to come through the phone, but I get an email instead, again, that's wrong. And it could be as convincing and as well crafted as possible, but if you know what is correct, when it's not correct, that's when you'll be able to spot those differences. And a big thing too, stop, think, and reflect. We work in such a fast-paced society now that the idea of stopping and thinking about something seems almost criminal. But it's never as urgent as the person wants you to think. And quite frankly, if you want to save your company time, taking a minute to deconstruct an email, to think about what it is that you're looking at, is going to save the company a lot more time than trying to recover from a breach that now lasts for days, weeks, months, years. So stop and think. And we need to stop giving out personal information. You really do. And I don't just mean like, hi, oh, you're talking to Aaron? Yeah, here's my social security number, not a problem. My phone number as well, great. That's not what I'm talking. I'm talking about things you don't necessarily think about, like when you get a new job and the company sends you that laptop and you get really excited and you want to take a picture and post it on LinkedIn. Well, now they know what kind of laptop you're using. You've just told the world what sort of software, what version of software that you're using. You know, you've given potential criminals information about your attack space. They now know how to craft an email to try to get after Apple computers or specific issues with Microsoft Office, the version that you happen to be using, if you're using the fat client, if you're using O365. Same sort of thing as posting information about your family, your children. Everybody loves that picture where you're down on your knees with your kid the first day of school and they've got the sign that says, hi, I'm going into Mrs. So-and-so's class for first grade and I'm excited. Well, now people know, A, you've got a child that's in such and such school that is with such and such teacher in a grade. Now they can use that to try to socially engineer a phone call to you or another a video call or an email. Giving out that information, it may seem like a really wonderful thing to do because you're really proud of that kid or you're really proud of that new job, but all you're doing is you are hemorrhaging information that can then be taken and used against you. So be very careful what it is that you give out. Ronald Reagan, he said, trust but verify. I don't agree. I say don't trust, always verify. Communication isn't safe. If you can teach the people around you that you love that communication isn't safe, and that's going to go a long way. Because so often people just think, oh, I got an email from Bob. Bob's a good person. I don't have to worry about it. Well, it may not always be from Bob. Hover over your mouse over the URLs. There's two websites I always like to point people to. One is urlscan.io, and that does an amazing job with links. Any.run, that's for files, for documents and .exes. Those, it will actually run it for you and be able to tell you if there's something wrong with it. For URL scan, it's super easy, right? You've got that bar up there. You put the URL in, whether that be an IP address or the URL itself, and it comes back and it tells you, hey, look, that is malicious. It'll tell you where the website is hosted. In this case, it was hosted in Russia. And it came back and it says, hey, this is malicious. Maybe you shouldn't actually go there. And so if you hover your mouse over a link in an email and you can't tell where it is that you're going, or it's going somewhere that it doesn't necessarily say it should be, like if it says, hey, go to companyaa.com, and then you hover over it and it's a whole bunch of string of numbers and letters, use URL scan. It's very, very easy to use. Any.run, a little bit more difficult to use, but if you teach yourself how to use it, it can be very, very helpful. You run tasks. So you can actually drop in an executable, let it run, see what happens. And it's not going to blow up I'll get to questions at the end. It's not going to blow up your machine. And verify, always verify. Verify your information and do it out of band. And by verifying out of band, this is probably the most critical piece of information that I want you to kind of leave here with. Verify information, but do it out of band. And what I mean by that is, in a way, alternatively to how I contacted you in the very beginning. So if I send you an email and it seems suspicious, give me a call. If I ping you on Slack or on Teams, email me back. Last year, on LinkedIn, I signed up for a sweepstakes to win tickets to Black Hat, right? Then kind of forgot about it, and a few weeks later, I got an email in my inbox, and it said, hey, congratulations, you won tickets to Black Hat. And I mean, it's unexpected. It was too good to be true. There's a bunch of emojis in the email, so it didn't fully feel like a business email. It was shooting off red flags all over the place. But at the same time, I kind of had remembered doing something to try to win Black Hat tickets, but who knows, maybe that's whole sweepstakes. Maybe I just did a completely boneheaded thing and gave my information to a threat actor, right? So what I did, the company that was sponsoring it, I went to their website. And I went to the very bottom of their page, and I found the Contact Us. And I filled out, I clicked on it, and I filled out a quick email and just said, hi, my name is Aaron Strong. I was just contacted by this individual in this department from your company. If they exist, can you please have them reach back out to me and let me know that this is actually a real thing? Just sent it off. And about 45 minutes, an hour later, I get a ping in my inbox, and there's an email from that person, from that company, and it says, Aaron, our contact team sent me over this email. I wanted to just verify with you that, yes, this is real, that, yes, you did win these tickets. So if you don't mind, would you mind sharing me some information so that we could get your name on the tickets? But that's what I mean by verifying out of band. That finance worker, they did an amazing job of saying, hey, this doesn't seem legit. Let's hop on a Zoom call. The one mistake that they did is they didn't initiate. They didn't initiate the call. They didn't say, hey, CFO, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna call you on the phone. I'm gonna call you on Teams or whatever. And that could have potentially stopped the whole thing. But continuing to take in and use the links that the attacker may be using against you, that's where the problem lies. Don't use the email address that's in the reply to function of the email. Don't use the link at the bottom of the email. Don't use the phone number that's in the email, excuse me, the email signature, right? Go out and find that information from a trusted source, from the company's website, from something internal if it's from within your company. Respond out of band. That will save a whole lot of heartache and a whole lot of headache for you and your company. From a corporate level, a really big thing is to set up policies and procedures, right, as a human firewall. Don't allow one person to be able to make sweeping changes, especially when it comes to finances. When it comes to finances, make it touch 2, 3, 4 people. Because if one person gets popped and they believe that this scam is happening and they think it's fully a legit thing, hopefully someone down the line will be able to stop and think and say, wait a second, this doesn't seem right. Has anyone verified this information? Has anyone gone back and spoken to the individual that's starting this process up, right? Policies and procedures, again, knowing what's correct to be able to find what's not correct. Follow that procedure every single time. And if it derivates from the, hey, I know we normally have to get Simon and Edna involved with this, but time is of the essence. This has to happen right now. Can you just please bypass? That's a huge red flag. It goes against policy, procedure, and it's outside of how we normally do things. And so you deputize your employees to say, that's not how we do things. We kind of have to go things the right way. And make sure that comes down from the top. If your executive team doesn't follow the same rules that you want your employees to, your employees aren't going to either. Make sure that they continue to do it. Talk about it often. The more we talk about security and the more we talk about issues like this, the more people will feel comfortable coming to you and coming to being able to start up new conversations. Hey, I read something. What do you think about this? Hey, I saw this. What do you think about X, Y, and Z, right? It normalizes conversation so that people will feel more comfortable. So that you don't end up like this guy on CNN talking to Christian Amanpour. This went around the world. And what's over his shoulder? I mean, that's an individual who probably didn't talk enough about security and best practices within his company enough, because that should never happen, right? From a technical level, you've got password rotation and complexity. We all patch our systems. We all use multi-factor authentication, or we should be using multi-factor authentication. If you have the option, please use it. It's huge. Email security, you've got the alphabet soup, a 24/7 SOC. All these things are good. All these things should be used and must be used. However, if we don't train our people, all that kind of goes out the window. Because here's some scary facts that CISA put out last year. 70% of attached files and links were not blocked by network border protection. So that's a lot getting through. 15% of malicious attachments or links not blocked by endpoint protections, and this is the worst one. 84% of employees who took the bait did so in 10 minutes or less. So you're up against a clock. So for all of us, when you're talking to friends and family, when you're talking to coworkers, being able to make sure that they know what they're looking for and they know what that they need to see and look out for is going to be a huge, huge help, because 10 minutes may seem like a long time, but 10 minutes to stop a breach is not a lot of time. So awareness and training. What's the one thing we constantly hear about people? People are, yeah. Well, I'd like to push back on that. Yes, people are an attack vector that gets hit quite a lot. But thinking of them as a weak link as opposed to an asset within your company, another line of defense, that defense in depth, right? That shifts the blame away from people and puts it back on us as practitioners to be able to train you. Because if I don't train you well, how am I supposed to be able to know that what you're doing is, that you're going to know what you need to do? So don't think of people as a weak link. Think of people as an asset, something that you can use as another layer of defense. So if you train them right, that's the same thing as going to a firewall and saying, "How dare you, firewall?" When really the information that you gave the firewall, the ACLs that you put in the firewall, were crap to begin with. You can't blame the firewall. Blame the information that they were given, right? So address that human component early and often. Everybody, when you get onboarded into a company, you've got 30 days or something like that to complete security training and a whole bunch of other things. That's great, but why wait 30 days? Do it early. The sooner you start your people on security training and security awareness, the better prepared they're going to be able to stop these things. Because for those 29 days that it takes for them to get onboarded and start working and doing their job, that's a potential threat right there, right? You want to get them involved in the way you do things, the security that you have, so that way they fall in line with the rest of the company. Otherwise, it's just kind of a potential problem out there. This is another big one. Don't vilify failure. Excuse me. Don't vilify failure. And by that, I mean when you send out a simulation, someone clicks on it, and then maybe they click on another one as well. Don't come down on them as though they are the problem with the culture in the company. Because all that's going to do is it's going to make them hide future failures. For those out there that have kids, the same sort of thing. If you come down on your kids really hard on something, and then they actually mess up, they're going to hide their mistakes from you, when really you want them to bring your mistakes to you so that you can help them fix it. Same thing here. If they can't hide a phishing simulation failure, they can try to hide an actual attack failure. And those are the ones you don't want hidden from you. You want them to be able to say, "Oh my God, Aaron, I just clicked on something. I don't know what to do. Please help me." You want them to be able to feel comfortable coming to you instead of, "Oh no, I just clicked on something. Well, I'm not telling Aaron about it because he's going to scream at me for the next 3-4 days. I don't want that." So hopefully this wasn't a problem. I'm just going to let it slide. You don't want that to happen. So if you vilify failure, they're just going to hide the problems from you. And going back to encouraging that dialogue. If they have a question, "Hey, I clicked on something. What may have happened? All right, let's talk about it." You have a question about something you heard in the news. Let's talk. Their behavior, and quite frankly, our behavior, impacts everything. If they don't buy in, then you've got a serious problem on your hand. And reward success. Going back to the idea of honey catches more flies than vinegar, right? One thing I do, once a month, I go in and I am able to find all the people in our company that actually successfully report a phishing email in the wild. And I grab all those email addresses and I send them this. Congratulations, a Security Rockstar Award. This is to certify you saw a big old fish and reported it to security. This is exactly what we want. Congratulations. Go ahead, print it out, put it on your cubicle. I've even seen people add it to their email signatures as well. And it gives them the feeling of, hey, I did something right. I want to keep doing that. But at the same time, for the people that are putting it up, now someone else walks past your cubicle and, what's this Security Rockstar Award? I've now basically brought you into the security team because now you're going to tell somebody else, well, it's because I clicked on a phishing email and I used that button and it was actually a thing. Oh, well, what's that button? Now you've got more people. Security teams are small, right? The more people you can get on your team, the better you're gonna be. All right, so lessons learned. Do it often. The more often you talk about things and the more often you run training and simulations, the more people start thinking about it. The other thing I've noticed is after I run a simulation, in the days and weeks afterwards, the amount of reported emails spikes. Not just a little bit, it spikes. You get a lot more, and that's not because you're getting more malicious emails coming into your corporate inboxes. No, that's because your employees are starting to think about it, and they're like, I failed that simulation. Let's go ahead and let's try to make these things, let's send this in. So make them realistic. It does no one any good to throw out softball simulations. It trains people to look for the same thing at the same time of the month, at the same time of the week, the same day of the week, whatever it happens to be. If you keep it repetitive or you keep it really easy, yes, your click rate, your metric that you can bring to the ELT may look amazing. Our click rate is at near 0%. Well, it's because it's not actually realistic. It doesn't help your company because when an actual attack comes, everyone's going to fall for it because you haven't trained them right. I always follow up with results and lessons learned. So I'll send out a simulation, and then at the end of the simulation, send out another email. Here's what you found, or here's what you received. Here are the red flags you should have seen. We did great this time, or we didn't do so great this time. Here's what to look for as you move forward. Be open about it. Be honest. Be transparent. That's what makes people believe you. And again, top-down compliance with training. If you're my CEO and you click on an email, I'm going to hound you to finish your training just as much as I'm going to go after the intern that we have for that semester, right? Everybody has to do it because, again, if the CEO isn't, no one else is going to want to do it. Tailor your trainings. Just do it. Not everybody needs the same kind of training. You can go for high-risk groups or people that have a lot of access. There's different types of training as well. Games and puzzles. People love the games. We've seen a lot of interaction with those. You can use stories. Stories are very easy to remember. Videos. Broad subjects can use longer trainings. Specific subjects, it's better to go smaller. We live in a TikTok society, as unfortunate as that is, where our attention span, if it goes longer than 30 seconds, we start to kind of get distracted by other things because there's something else that's happening, right? So keep them short. People will be able to take that information in better. And touch on relevant news stories. And make the training diverse as well. Because again, for a company like I work at, we have people all over the world, which means that what makes sense to me and what's relevant to me is not necessarily going to be relevant to somebody else. So if you're setting up these trainings, either make it so that it's relevant to everybody, or make sure that you send relevant information to those specific people. We think differently, have different points of view, different languages, experiences, and cultural references. We're never going to be perfect, right? We aren't. But if we do these things and we try to train people as best we can, we will be as strong of a company as we can be. And that's why we have those other technical controls. Because again, going back to the idea of I don't have to be perfect, I don't have to run faster than the hungry bear, right? I just have to run faster than you. You don't want to be the guy with the camera. You want to be the guy with the sunshade, booking it out of there. So together we can prevent data breaches. And I know we only have a couple seconds left, so I'll make sure that we touch on these last points. These are the things I want you to leave with today. Tips for your people, your friends, your families, your coworkers. Know it's okay. That way you can spot what's not okay. Be careful what you click on. Verify that information, but always do it out of band. Slow down and ask questions and learn how to report. Everybody has a reporting feature. And learn how to contact your SOC just in case something bad does happen. You need to be able to get in touch with your security operations team. From a training standpoint, remember to educate people on new threats that are happening, make them realistic, do it often, and normalize the conversation. Don't vilify the failure, and reward your successes. Because last year, $8 trillion was lost because of global cybercrime. And this year, they're thinking it'll be closer to $10 to $11 trillion. This isn't going anywhere. We need to stay on top of this. We need to train our people. Thank you very much.